to be seated so we can start. Good morning on this special International Women's Day celebration, where we will have some special attention to Batak textiles from the island of Sumatra. A warm-hearted welcome to Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Mayerfas, Deputy Chief of Mission, Mr. Freddy Panggabean, Chairperson Dharma Wanita Persatuan, Ibu Firna Mayerfas, Ibu Imelda Panggabean, Chairperson of the Indonesian Diaspora Network in the Netherlands, Ibu Lani, Chairperson of the International Women Contacts. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, here at the venue and joining via Zoom. My name is Cindy Angelique and I will be accompanying you through the program. Some might know me and some don't. I am also a member of the Indonesian Diaspora Network in the Netherlands. And it will be an inspiring morning with Indonesian art and culture, especially from the island of Sumatra. Now let me quickly go through the agenda for today. Today's subject will be highlighting the history and tradition of Batak textiles through a lecture by Mrs. Sandra Niessen, an anthropologist from the Netherlands who did several researches for many years and is also author of the book Legacy Enclosed, Batak Textiles of Indonesia, and many more other titles. Later you can talk to her and ask her about her books as well. Then there also will be a presentation on video by Mrs. Uli Panggabean, a weaver from North Sumatra. After the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where you can ask the two speakers about anything related to their presented subjects, followed by a fashion show and an auction where we are counting on your support here at the venue and also in the Zoom. And during the auction for the ulos cloth, Mrs. Sandra Niessen will explain about the ulos motifs and designs. And we will end the afternoon with a lunch. But first of all, I would like to invite His Excellency Mr. Mayerfas to express some warm welcoming words. Silakan Pak Mayerfas.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ibu Lani, Chair of Indonesian Diaspora Network. Mrs. Christina, President of International Women Contact in the Hague. Ibu Firna, Chair of Women Association in the Netherlands. Pak Freddy, Deputy Chief of Mission at the Embassy, come from North Sumatra, Batak people, Bu. Selamat pagi, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Indonesian Embassy It is pleasure for me to warmly welcome you all to this morning event, including those of you, Bapak dan Ibu, who join us online through Zoom. It is good that we can start to hold the event in hybrid format, online and offline. Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased that the Embassy, in collaboration with the Indonesian Diaspora Network, will start offline event by discussing and showcasing the Batak textile. Next time, please Ibu, Songket Silungkang from my hometown. It's better than, it's more beautiful than Ulos, Batak textile. The Batak textile shows diversity of Indonesia and richness of our culture. Indonesia, as you know, has more than 300 ethnic groups in more than 17,000 islands, spread from Aceh to Papua. Batak is the third largest ethnic in Indonesia. There are Batak everywhere in Indonesia, after Javanese and Sudanese. With population Indonesia currently around 273 million people. Majority of Batak people is located in North Sumatra, circling the Lake Toba. The Lake Toba is the largest volcanic lake in Southeast Asia at over 1,000 square kilometers and the deepest lake in the world of 550 meters. In the center of Lake Toba, there is an island called Samosir, with the size as big as Singapore. As one of the new Bali, the Lake Toba area is not only known for its beauty, but also for the Batak culture. So the beauty and the nature and the culture and also the food. But Padang food. No Batak food. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the Batak culture is the handwoven textile, or in Indonesia we call it tenun. Is it tenun? Yeah. Tenun is artful Indonesian technique of making fabric by weaving different colors of thread. Tenun fabrics are made in various places in Indonesia, such as Sumatra, Java, Nusa Tenggara, and Sulawesi. The tenun industry is big in Indonesia. The number of small and medium enterprises in Indonesia that produce tenun in Sumatra are around 38,000 units. The number is even bigger in Java and Nusa Tenggara, which reached 125,000 and 75,000 units respectively. There are many types of tenun, such as songket, from my hometown, the best one. Okay. Ikat, maybe you know that, lurik, and also ulos. I just know ulos recently, the level of ulos and the price of ulos also. It's expensive. Tenun is one of Indonesian culture heritage that is still being preserved until today. Traditionally, Indonesian women made the tenun by hand in their village. It is believed that weaving is a symbolic value connected with women's role in caring for family, children, and community. Therefore, it is timely that we hold this event in conjunction with the commemoration of International Women's Day. Ladies and gentlemen, the type of tenun that is part of Batak textile is ulos. Our two speakers today will discuss in detail about ulos. We will hear from Ibu Sandra about the history and tradition of ulos. We will also listen about the making of ulos from Ibu Uli Panggabean, a traditional weaver of ulos. I do hope that from our discussion today, we can promote ulos more to the world and increase the export of ulos. This in turn will also increase the export of Indonesian textile. The export of Indonesian textile in January to October last year has reached 10.5 billion US dollar. Our target this year is to reach 12 billion US dollar. I would like to end my remark by extending our thanks to Indonesian Diaspora Network for their collaboration, our speaker, Ibu Sandra dan Ibu Uli, the Mandaloka dance for the performance, and all of you participants who has made the time to attend the event. I would like also to encourage you to plan a visit to North Sumatra and especially the Lake Toba. Some said it's the most beautiful lake in the world. Indonesia is gradually opening its border. As of yesterday, we have reopened the visa on arrival in Bali. Soon, hopefully, it will apply to other provinces also. Hence, put Indonesia in your holiday agenda and plan a visit to Lake Toba. You will see yourself the beauty of the Batak culture and can buy ulos from its origin. I wish you a fruitful discussion and hope to see you all in North Sumatra, in Indonesia, and especially in the Lake Toba. Thank you. Terima kasih.
To Mr. Maifas. Then I would like to invite the chairman of Indonesian Diaspora Network Netherlands, Mrs. Lani Prajaraharja, to come to the front. Mrs. Lani, the floor is yours.
Good morning, distinguished guests, and good afternoon to the attendees in Indonesia. First of all, I would like to extend a heart welcome to His Excellency Mr. Maifas, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and Mrs. Tina Maifas, who is also the chair of the Dewan Wanita Persatuan Indonesia. And then to Mr. Freddy Panggabean, the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of Republic of Indonesia, and Mrs. Imelda Panggabean. I think you are also representing Batak here. To Mrs. Christina Patistik, President of International Women's Contact, Mrs. Sandra Niessen, Mrs. Uli Panggabean, to the staff of the Indonesian Embassy, other members of the Dewan Wanita Persatuan, and to the organizers of today's event and all guests present here, as well as attending online. Thank you so much for your presence here at the Indonesian Embassy, and to you also who are following this event on your screen, and a special thanks to the Indonesian Embassy and to Papa Maifas to host this event here. Very wonderful. Today, we are gathered here to celebrate the International Women's Day. And in this opportunity, I want to remembrance to introduce you, and herewith also honoring several inspiring Indonesian women heroes. among others, Malahayati, born in 1550, and Suknyadin, born in 1848, who both fought against Dutch imperialism in Aceh. Raden Ajeng Kartini, maybe you have heard about her, born in 1879, a prominent activist who advocated for women's rights and female education. I would like to mention also Megawati Soekarno Putri, the first female president of the Republic of Indonesia from 2001 to 2004. Nowadays, President Joko Widodo has made gender equality a cornerstone of his agenda, and currently he is a global ambassador for the hashtag #HeForShe campaign. His cabinet has the highest number of women in the country history. Not a matter of simply filling seats in the cabinet, but consisting of some incredible, strong, smart, and capable female political figures. For example, Retno Marsudi, Minister of Foreign Affairs and former Ambassador of Indonesia to the Netherlands. Sri Mulyani Indrawati, Minister of Finance, former leader of the World Bank, and voted the best minister in the world in 2018. Suci Pujiastuti, Maritime and Fisheries Minister, who became notorious for her tough stance against illegal fishing activities in the Indonesian waters. Johanna Susana Jambise from Papua, Minister of Women's Empowerment and Child Protection, and many more prominent female figures. Today's theme of the 111th International Women's Day is #BreakTheBias, Gender Equality for a Sustainability Tomorrow. Maybe gender equality seems natural or self-evident in this 21st century, but actually this is still a challenge for us all. Okay, as I would not take more of your valuable time, I herewith invite you to enjoy the power of creativity of the Batak women in Indonesia and their dedication to continued tradition. I wish you all a wonderful International Women's Day, and thank you once more so much for everyone who made this event possible, and especially for the Indonesian Embassy, Bapak Mayatwas, to host us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Lani. Indonesia's art and culture is very diverse, and so are the traditional dances, as every island has its own traditional dances and costumes. The traditional dance that will be performed here this afternoon is from the island of Sumatra and is called the Tortor dance. Tortor is a traditional dance from North Sumatra, and it expresses the boot-rounding sound through your heartbeat, imagining the sound of your feet in a traditional wooden house in Tanah Batak. Tortor is not just a dance, it consists of praying and philosophy of life. And the performers, we don't call dancers, but penortor. However, following the development of world globalization, tortor nowadays is not only classical and traditionally performed. So nowadays, you find some new tortor creations and tortor contemporary. The tortor that will be performed here is a new creation. Although it's not classical, but it still contains the traditional movement of the contemporary tortor. It's called Tortor Pantai Pasifik Si Ute Manis, created by a community from Sibisa village. And this morning, this dance will be performed by Nova Burdo Marcelin and Ilana Pasman from Madaloka Dance Studio. applause for Nova and Ilana from Madaloka Dance Studio. Thank you, ladies. Our next speaker is a PhD anthropologist specialized in the history and tradition of Batak textiles. Her book, Batak Textiles of Indonesia, offers the first definite study of the woven heritage of the Toba, Simalungun, and Karo Batak. And it is the most complete analysis of Batak textiles ever published. It provides a record of more than 100 different design types, and the Batak textiles reveal much about the history and traditions. With the love and passion she has for Batak textiles, she will give us an insight this morning in getting to know more about it. So let's welcome her to the floor with a big applause, Mrs. Sandra Niessen.
Cindy, good morning, everybody here present today. I hope I'm audible now. I said thank you to Cindy, and I said thank you to all of you present today. It's such a pleasure to be able to celebrate International Women's Day with everybody here today and all of our hadirin in Indonesia yang ikut lewat Zoom. And you know, Mr. Meyerfas, our dear ambassador, talked about the beauty of the Batak area. And he didn't mention the beauty of the people. I have to say that Indonesian people are known throughout the world for amazing hospitality and warmth. And I'm sitting here with a big grin on my face because I'm enjoying so much being back in the environment of Indonesia here in the embassy. And the whole process leading up to today involved so many people from the embassy and so many people from the Indonesian Diaspora Network, also from DISN Hibiscus. And I'll tell you, it was one big party. It was laughter, enjoyment, coming together. And it wasn't just a project to put on today. It was history in the making. It was connections and typical Indonesian spirit. So thank you to all of you for all of your background assistance for today's event. I wonder if we could have the first slide. I don't know who's looking after the slide. Thank you. I would like to thank in particular Mr. Meyerfas for the warm greeting to us all today. I'm sorry that Batak textiles haven't charmed you as much as the textiles from your own village, your own town of Silingpung. But someday, maybe the dancing, the beautiful dancing of Batak women will entice you to actually learn to love the women as well. Thank you also to Mr. Panggabean for your warmth and your hospitality, also that of your wife, Mrs. Panggabean, who has the same marga. Freddie has the same marga as our speaker today, Panggabean. And let's see, I'd like to particularly thank Ibu Lani. Let's see if I can get this right. Jara Harja. Yes, it's a long one. For your warmth and hospitality, and also Ibu Ina Wabaruntu for her amazing skill in building bridges between the Netherlands and let's see if we could have the second slide, please. Thank you. International Day International Women's Day is about building bridges and about solidarity amongst women. Do you know that International Women's Day began more than a century ago? The first movement towards a sort of women's movement was at the turn of the 20th century, and it began in Eastern Europe as a kind of leftist movement. And it began out of concern for the circumstances of women. And if we could have the next slide, please. By 1960, this particular image of women's strength, resistance, from 1943 was adopted as the global symbol of International Women's Day. Every year, the UN gives a special theme to International Women's Day, and Ibu Lani has already mentioned the theme of this year, and it relates to gender equality in order to obtain the sustainability goals that we have within the UN and actually now around the world, given the problems of our climate. The executive secretary of the UN Climate Change Committee said, "Where financial support is shown, women thrive. They are important agents of change and innovators, and they can affect change throughout society." There's a vote of confidence for women. This is a theme that I'd like to share with you in particular today. We will be talking about Mrs. Uli Panggabean, who's with us via the Zoom today from Tarutung in the southern Batak area. Could we have the next slide, please? But first of all, let's talk about the women's movement in the Netherlands. Here we have the poster on the left for a women's tentoonstelling, a women's exhibition here in The Hague in 1899. And the women here on the right were the ones who put that exhibition on. Believe it or not, it was not a leftist movement at the time. It was strongly supported by the aristocracy of the Netherlands and the government, to the extent that they built a huge building dedicated to women, imagine. So that began in higher class spheres, and the whole intention was to improve the condition of women by calling attention to their work. Now, I'd like you to notice the woman dressed in dark colors in this photograph here to the right. That was Mrs. van Zuilen-Tromp. If we could have the next slide, please. Mrs. van Zuilen-Tromp, I think she was inspired by the women's exhibition. Here she is on the left. And she went on to set up an organization called Oost and West, East and West. And it was it became a large organization, and it was to build the bridge between the Netherlands and the colonies, both in East and West. She was a young woman in her 30s, and she was born in Indonesia, but she had an incredible strength of character. She had among her foremost committees very strong men of high station in the Netherlands, East Indies, and in the Netherlands. With them, she built this East and West, which lasted until the Second World War, and the goals were well-being and empowerment, and she put a special attention on craft when it came to the Netherlands, East Indies, assuming that if you make sure that weavers and other craftspersons have a good market and a good income, they will have a better life. And that was the whole goal of her focus on craft. Can we have the next slide, please? So there we go. Some of you might recognize the building on the left because that's where Restaurant Garuda was located, and it will be located again in the future, I understand. But this was called Buatan. It was a shop. And here the East and West had its center of sales. So they put on exhibitions and they put on fairs, but also they sold handicrafts from Indonesia here in this shop. And they had a sister shop in Surabaya called Tontonan, where also that was the other side of the bridge. From Tontonan, things would be sent to the shop and so on. And in fact, craft did flourish as a result of this. Also exhibitions and fairs in Indonesia. if we could have the next slide, please. Through the sale of craft and the emphasis on developing a market, something that was traditional and based on traditional values, traditional knowledge, became transformed. It became transformed into a commodity. And so then it became oriented towards the market. And what we find with this is when things are oriented towards the market, what you want is bigger sales. And so then you look for cheaper raw materials, the crafts people, they develop a division of labor, and then the traditional values and knowledge in that process become secondary to meeting the requirements of the market. And so that's how craft was transformed, and that's the situation we face today. Can we have the next slide, please? There we go. There's that beautiful Lake Toba that Mr. Meyerfass has already told us about, and where Pat Freddy and Ibu Imelda are from, that area. So, and I encourage you again to all go and visit. It's absolutely exquisite. The weavings that the Batak people make are from around this lake, as Mr. Meyerfass has already said. And you see the different Batak groups. I've given them all a different color on this map. So this is an uli Panggabean. The most southern town in the green area there. Next slide, please. Now, I entered the region, believe it or not, that's me. I didn't have gray hair then. That was 43 years ago. Actually, no, it was probably less because that was 1986 and I was in the area of Porcea. We have somebody here from Porcea today, no? Yeah. In other words, I've been going back and forth for 43 years to the Batak area. And I've noticed in that time, actually, a very dramatic change in the textiles. There's a decline in general weaver knowledge because they focus on specific areas now. There's a dramatic decline in skill. The number of weavers is declining. Also, the number of designs in my book, which Ibu Cindy mentioned, I document more than 100 kinds of ulos, and now there's really about 4 or 5 kinds that are popular. So there's a decline in complexity as well of design. The cloths are getting smaller. The older ones were large like this, or even larger. And there's also a decline in ritual use because people are not always attending the traditional ceremonies as they did in the past. So originally the weaving arts were associated with the goddess who gave life, who came down from the heavens and created the earth. But now it's more or less associated with not having another job. It's very hard work and it brings in little income. There's also the dependence on fossil fuels because yarn is now imported and it's done with chemical dyes. This is representing a dependence on the fossil fuel industry because the dyes and the yarns are made with synthetics based on fossil fuels. And so as a result, the care of the local environment that used to be characteristic of making a cloth is no longer the case. Could we have the next slide, please? And this says it all, I think, one photograph. This was taken in 1986 in Porcea. And you can see they're already on the left wearing Western clothing as on a day-to-day basis, but they were demonstrating to me here how they use their traditional textiles. And you notice the textiles are very dark and they're very sober and they were very, very much related to the soul. The textile connected a person with the spirit world, and that's why they were sober. But now, to gain a market, the textiles have been more associated with women and with fashion. And I'm sure Mr. Meyerfass will be very pleased to see that there's more songket of the kind that you will find in Minangkabau. And also the gold yarn that is so typical of his region. So that's the kind of change that I witnessed in my 43 years going back and forth. So if we could go to the next slide, please. This is our other speaker, who I'm very pleased will join us today, Mrs. Uli Panggabean. In the time of Mrs. van Zuilen-Tromp, it was men who spoke about the craftspeople of Indonesia. They were learned men, people like Lufar and Jasper, who were known to have knowledge about indigenous crafts. And here I am doing what those men did then. But I'm saying this is 2022, and we have a most amazing stage here at the Indonesian Embassy. So these weavers have a voice, and now we will be able to give them a stage today at the Indonesian Embassy. So Uli will be joining us in the form of a video and then in question and answer. I have never met Uli except through Facebook and through Zoom, but I was struck by her because she's not just a weaver, she's a writer. So she lives in a village. Her only income is very meager, it's from weaving, but she's got a soul and she's got knowledge and she has vision and she expresses it beautifully daily. She's always writing and writing on her little mobile telephone. And what she expresses is, for the anthropologist, absolutely amazing. Because when you go as an anthropologist to the area, you try to understand the local people. I tried so hard in my book to represent it's my interpretation, of course, but to represent what the women were thinking, doing, feeling, their techniques and so on. But it's always, of course, colored by me, the outsider, the white person, the anthropologist asking the questions. And in this case, what I have is the most exquisite example of an indigenous person, Uli Panggabean, who every day writes about weaving and writes about how it is to be a weaver without my intervention. And that's why I thought, I don't need to talk about weavers. There's a weaver out there who's so capable of talking about weavers, and let's give her a stage. Next slide, please. So she has told in several cases about herself. She's a granddaughter of a weaver of this cloth called the ragi dupe. This is the ragi dupe. Every cloth has a name, each design. And her mother was a ragi dupe weaver, and she, as a child, you can imagine the child coming home from school every day weaving. So she learned, this is what they call the Raja of Ulos, the number one, the most complex, the most highly valued. Could we have the next slide, please? Here is an old archival photograph of how it was made. And the techniques are unusual. They're unique in the world. Uli was the one who would make the side panels of the textile, which was woven separately and then sewn together. And her mother would make the center, the white part. And I'm not sure who made the striped part. I think it was her mother as well. So this is showing the different phases of making this particular ragi dupe. Could we go to the next slide, please? And here we see two examples. The one on the left is the kind that her mother would have made, her grandmother would have made 100 years ago. And this one on the right with ikat design is the kind her mother would have made when she was a child, and she as well. Next slide, please. So here she is. Uli had an amazing childhood weaving, but also she was very typical in that her parents, her mother, wove to get an income so her children could go to school. For the Batak people, education is very, very important. And Uli did well in school, and then when she was finished, she did what her parents wanted. She left the village to go to the city to have a modern life. She got married, she had a child, and then due to circumstances, she came back to her village. And then she had skills, she had learned how to work in the city, but those skills didn't work for her in the village. She had to go back to weaving, and it was hard because she'd left it for so many years, but she did go back to weaving and she started to take up the craft again. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, my picture is in the way of Uli's face, unfortunately, but maybe that can be shifted, I don't know. But Uli, since she's come back, has learned that, in fact, it's rather difficult now to be a weaver in the Batak area. And part of the reason is that commercialization that I mentioned, whereby the yarns are coming from outside, the dyes are coming from outside, and they're part of a larger market. So they don't have control over prices, and they're at the whim of the pricing outside. And I know many weavers are now stopping, putting down their looms and ceasing to weave because they can't make a profit. Sometimes the yarn is more expensive than the price they will get for the cloth after they've woven it. So that means they really are forced to put down their looms. So Uli is facing this problem, and also because now there's semi-mechanical looms, they have to compete with mechanization, and as a weaver, that's very demoralizing, because you can't compete with a machine, you'll always lose. The machine is always faster. See, I wonder if we could go on to the next slide. Uli has nevertheless fallen in love with her tradition. She says this tradition is amazing. She's discovering how rich it is. And she's saying, my goodness, my mother and elderly people, they knew so much more than I know. She knows 80%, she says, of the weaving techniques. She wants to pass it on to her children. But she says, I also want to make sure it survives. And how will I do that? You've seen her daughter. She would like to pass on the tradition to her daughter, and she'd like to research her tradition. But in particular, she'd like to learn how to make natural dyes again, learn how to grow the fiber used to make yarn, learn how to spin and make yarn. And I know there's a movement afoot. There's several people in the Batak area now doing that kind of thing. But in Uli's area, she's the only one I know who would like to do that. So she said to me on occasion, you know, she owns nothing. She has no house. She has no land. So she said to me on occasions, I so wish I could grow some seeds to make our dye stuffs again. Because she says, when I grow it on my neighbor's land and they use Roundup or I have to move, then all my effort gets lost because, you know, the seeds die or I can't harvest it or something. And so I said to her, you know, we have to find a solution. And I thought, this is a good theme for International Women's Day. Could we have the next slide, please? Because, you know, this is about solidarity. We're here together. We've talked about how the women's movement has grown up in different parts of the world, and how in the 1960s, finally there was that poster of "We can do it," there we are. Women united, women here, solidarity, helping each other, helping their sisters. We have an amazing woman in Indonesia, Uli Panggabean, who's got skill, insight, energy, will, understanding of her tradition, and the ability to expand it. But she doesn't have the means and the resources to fly, to stick out her wings and really make something of her tradition. And here we are. I know all of us here, even Mr. Mayerfast loves the ulos. Yeah, and we would like to see it continue. We would like to see natural dyes in ulos again. And we would like to see a weaver being able to support her family well with her craft. So I thought, ayo, let's have an event here with International Women's Day, our solidarity, and maybe we can hold hands between North and South. Let's get rid of this divide, North and South. Let's be one in our goal to perpetuate a weaving tradition for the benefit of us all, because it will take her off dependence on fossil fuels and the outside world, but we'll be together in assisting her in that project. So we have the means, she has the rest. I'm hoping today that we can work together to see if we can get her a little plot of land beside her house where she can grow dye stuffs. Were we going to introduce Uli first, or just have her video first?
First of all, thank you very much, Ibu Sandra, for all this interesting information. Yes, so from Mrs. Sandra, we are going to Indonesia via Zoom to the island of Sumatra in Tarutung, to be precise, where we are meeting a skilled weaver in the traditional clothing sector. And she will have a video showing now, right? Is the video ready, Pa? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention and your enthusiasm. And I'm so glad you'll be able to meet another Indonesian hero, a woman on International Women's Day, a woman in a village with amazing talent. This is Uli Panggabean.
Saya kan masih memakai tenun ini sebagai satu-satunya pencari nafkah. Tapi karena melihat bahwa dulu juga saya bertenun itu bisa dibilang sukses, saya memang berbeda dari orang lain, Bu. Saya tidak pernah gagal gitu di tenun ini. Bukan saya menyombong, Bu, mungkin memang ada bakat ya. Jadi dunia tenun ini, Bu, banyak sekali apanya, Bu, banyak sekali manfaatnya kalau ada orang yang betul-betul memberi hati, Bu, mengerjakannya, karena cakupannya akan banyak sekali. Pokoknya cakupannya itu ya panjang lah, Bu, sepanjang benangnya itu saya rasa. Banyak yang kita dapat, yang akan kita hidupi karena kita kembali ke alam itu, begitu. Oke, selama ini saya juga sebenarnya generasi yang tidak tahu bahwa benang yang kami pakai itu dulu bisa dari kapas. Saya baru tahu loh, belakangan ini aja setelah saya pulang gitu. Jadi ini juga menyangkut ketersediaannya di setiap rumah, Bu. Ketersediaan serat kita di setiap rumah. Juga langkah kita untuk memelihara alam yang sudah rusak sekali lah saya lihat. Karena saya lihat orang tidak melihat, saya lihat ya, orang tidak tahu gunanya alam itu lagi gitu. Pohon-pohonan, daun-daunan banyak lah, Bu. Bahkan di sini anak-anak itu tidak tahu lagi makanan-makanan yang tumbuh seperti pakis itu, orang nggak tahu lagi kalau itu makanan. Pokoknya dari pandemi ini kita semua sudah harus mandiri pangan, mandiri serat. Ini cuma langkah dari Partonun saja sebenarnya segitu. Kedepannya itu banyak sekali saya rasa yang bisa dilakukan jika kita memberi contoh. Ya, saya bersedia memberi contoh, Bu, meskipun ini pekerjaan seumur hidup nantinya. Kalau dari segi untungnya ya, Bu, ya saya rasa masih lebih menguntungkan kalau saya nanti kembali bekerja di perusahaan atau apa, tapi saya sudah jauh sekali, sudah 8 tahun, Bu, bekerja dan terus menulis. Ya di Facebook sih, Bu, saya menulisnya. Ini akan menolong lah, Bu, akan menolong. Meninggalkan tempat kita berpijak, pohon-pohon kita, sungai-sungai kita gitu. Kita sebenarnya sedang menuai bencana, sedang menabung bencana. Itu sebenarnya, Bu, yang saya lihat ya, Bu, ya. Dari segi misi saya bertenun ya, Bu, ya. Memang saya menginginkan sebidang tanah untuk saya menanami apa yang yang dibutuhkan untuk meneruskan tenun saya ini. Pewarnanya iya, kapasnya iya, dan kalau bisa pohon-pohonnya iya Bu ya, pohonnya memang tidak besar di sana Bu, tapi bibitnya ada, barangkali ada dari saudara saya yang punya tanah mau menanamnya, itu bisa dipakai untuk generasi selanjutnya. Saya memang maunya seperti itu Bu, karena pengalaman saya mengontrak rumah sekian tahun, saya 8 tahun, hampir 9 tahun di sini, saya itu harus pindah sekali 2 tahun, paling lama 3 tahun, Bu. Semua ini jadi pekerjaan sia-sia. Karena mereka baru saja bertunas, baru saja bertumbuh, harus saya tinggalkan. Saya bawa pindah pun karena perjalanan atau kondisi tanah yang tidak dikenali mungkin sama tumbuhan ini, dia sering mati, gagal lagi gitu. Ya, dan terakhir memang saya hanya bertanam sayuran untuk di sebelah rumah saya karena pengalaman ini, Bu. Saya memang berharap, Bu, ya, dengan kerusakan lingkungan yang besar di daerah saya ini, penebangan pohon di mana-mana, saya memang berharap semisal pekerjaan saya ini 5 tahun lagi berhasil dan orang melihat bahwa tanahnya, tumbuhannya itu ternyata ada berguna, mereka akan meninggalkan sifat merusak hutan itu, begitu. Mereka akan sadar bahwa di situ ada makanan, minuman, air, ada tumbuhan yang menahan tanah, seperti itu, Bu. Mereka akan sadar. Orang tidak mau menyelamatkan tanahnya sekarang, lingkungannya sekarang, itu karena mereka merasa bahwa di sana tidak ada nilai ekonomisnya, tidak ada uangnya, padahal tidak. Kita yang salah mengolahnya. Kita cenderung membeli semuanya ke pabrik, ke supermarket gitu. Padahal di tempat kita semuanya sudah tersedia. Jadi bayangkan ya Bu ya, dulu orang bangun rumah, hari ini mau bangun rumah, besok ada pohonnya. Ada kayunya, mereka tinggal tebang, Bu. Itu. Sekarang kan tidak bisa lagi seperti itu. Orang justru menebangi pohon mencari uang. Jadi kita butuh contohnya, Bu. Kita butuh contohnya. Saya baca-baca ya, dulu ya Bu ya, orang katanya beralih dari benang dipintal ini ke benang pabrik itu supaya lebih cepat. Katanya karena jauh, karena pabrik itu lebih bagus benangnya, padahal kenyataannya tidak. Masa itu entah karena informasi atau memang daya kritisnya rendah, tidak ada pertanyaan apakah benang ini yang dari pabrik memang lebih bagus dari buatan kami. Tidak ada pertanyaan. Tahun 60 ibu saya mulai bertenun ragido. Dia meninggalkan kapas pintal katanya ya. Kapas pintal ke benang pabrik karena katanya benang buatan sendiri itu tidak bagus, tidak sebagus benang pabrik. Beberapa motif juga dirusak, maksudnya dirusak atau apalah istilahnya, ya dirusak lah Bu, dirusak karena labeling, stigma kalau ulos-ulos Batak itu mengandung kuasa kegelapan, dunia perdukunan, dan lain-lain. Sementara akhirnya orang semuanya meninggalkan. Dulu itu ada tumbuhan-tumbuhan di sekeliling rumahnya itu yang untuk pewarna itu semua dibuang, dianggap hama, dibakar. Itu yang saya dengar cerita belakangan ini, Bu. Janganlah kita warisi lagi hal seperti ini ke cucu kita. Kita sudah sekolah. Kita harus, saya punya tenaga, saya punya pemikiran. Tapi saya tidak punya dana, saya tidak punya lahan gitu. Saya memang dari dulu tidak mau Indonesia itu dianggap orang miskin, kelaparan, dan lain-lain. Saya butuh bantuan untuk memperbaiki sistem ini. Saya seorang ibu, saya akan tanamkan ke anak saya untuk mandiri. Kalau perutnya sudah kenyang, pakaiannya sudah hangat, dia tidak perlu ribut. Tapi kita harus lihat kondisi negara kita itu seperti apa. Belanda, Jerman, dan lainnya itu ada di satu benua. Indonesia itu beribu-ribu pulau. Yang paling dibutuhkan itu adalah pendidikan, pemikiran, Bu. Dan kembali mengenali semua yang ada di sekitarnya seperti nenek moyang kita yang dulu. Itu legenda loh, di antara kami Partonun itu, Namburu Sandra itu legenda loh.
Terima kasih Ibu Uli Panggabean. Ibu Uli ada di Zoom nggak ya? Kelihatan nggak di Zoom? Kita bisa say hello sebentar nggak ya? Ada. Ibu Uli. Let's have a big applause for Bu Uli.
Halo, Horas Ibu.
Horas.
Horas.
Thank you for your presentation on video. Gimana kabarnya di sana?
Saya baik, Ibu Cindy.
Bagus, okay. After these amazing, interesting presentations, can imagine you might have some questions. Therefore, we give you the opportunity to address them now in our short Q&A session. Also, our guests via Zoom, please ask your question in the chat box if you have any. Now that we have Ibu Sandra here and also Ibu Uli. So, are there any questions here from the floor? No questions yet? Yeah, Ibu Lani? Sebentar, mau diambilin mic dulu.
My question is how many traditional patterns are for ulos, and is that growing? Are they developing or designing new patterns? And is there also the meaning of the patterns?
Ibu Sandra, yeah, maybe you can reply.
Ya, atas pertanyaan ini. There were more than 100 patterns. It depends how you count them because each region has its own variations. So where does one pattern end? And it depends. Sometimes there are hybrid patterns or sometimes variations within a single pattern. But I have counted around 120 in the past. And it represented region and also position. Right? And now those regional differences have become less, and also the organization of society has changed. So now the ulos is more representative of ethnic identity than what it used to be representative of, relationships within the kinship system of the Batak people. And for that reason, I think now we only have about 5 designs that are used a great deal. And also a whole lot of freedom, because now in the past where there were very strict rules about what constitutes a design, how you weave it, how many yarns per ikat design, and so on, those rules have become less strict. And so there's new creativity when it comes to color, design, and so on. Designs used to be made by weavers as they wove. They were designers at the same time as they were weavers. But now we find, because of the hierarchy and division of labor that has come in, now there are specific designers who make designs, and the weavers have just become technicians. And that saddens me, actually, because they don't really have the time and they don't have the cohort to be able to develop community designs, which was what made the Batak unique. I wonder if Ibu Uli would like to respond to this question. But...
Ibu Uli, kira-kira untuk jumlah macam desain yang ada dan bahan yang Bu Uli gunakan itu apa saja?
Benangnya atau apanya, Bu?
Ya, jadi bahannya dan juga jumlah desain yang ada, kan banyak sekali berbagai desain yang Bu Sandra juga tadi bahas. Nah, kira-kira kalau Bu Uli sendiri apa aja yang motif apa aja yang digunakan?
Kalau saya ya Bu ya, kalau tenun kreasi sekarang Bu, mandar ya. Mandar itu sarung, Bu.
Mandar?
Itu iya, mandar itu sarung, Bu.
Okay.
Sarung.
Recently she's creating mandar, that's a sarung. So for her, she's concentrating on that at the moment. I hope that answered your question, Ibu Lari. Any other questions?
It would be wonderful.
Yeah, maybe in the show. The chat box.
Bisa? Okay. Shall I speak bahasa to Ibu Uli or shall I speak, ya? Ibu Uli, saya terkesan sekali dengan penampilan dan penerangan Ibu. I'm very impressed about Ibu Uli as well. But my question is very simple. Ibu Uli, pertanyaan saya simple sekali. Dengan tenun yang Ibu pakai sekarang, itu ada artinya banyak untuk Ibu. I like to know the thing that she has now. It is a very specific.
She's wearing, yeah.
Yang dipakai
She's wearing right
ya,
now.
Ibu Uli pakai selendang ya?
Ya.
Boleh Ibu ceritakan tentang selendang yang dipakai Ibu Uli?
Ya. Ya, ini sangat berharga lah, Bu, karena ini ulos opung saya, ini selendang, namanya mangiring, Bu. Ini mangiring. Jadi
Ibu Uli is wearing a mangiring textile, and it's one that's been in the family for a long time, and she's wearing it. It's one dibuat oleh opungnya. Mbak Mai Uli dilakukan oleh opungmu?
iya, ini ulos opung saya, Namboru Sandra. Saya
This is made by her grandmother. And because today is a very special occasion for her, speaking through Zoom to Europe, she's wearing there's one that she also, it's a pattern that she also,
A very valuable one, yes. She also mentioned, yeah.
Ibu Uli, boleh kita melihat secara lebar? I want that she show us.
Bu Uli is going to show us.
Wow.
Nice.
Terima kasih.
Very nice. Any other questions?
No, I just like to know about Ibu Uli. How many hours does she work per day? Ibu Uli, berapa jam bekerja setiap hari?
rata-rata ya, Bu ya, itu 12 jam sehari, Bu.
12 hours. Okay. Oke, pertanyaan saya, berapa lama dibutuhkan untuk membuat satu piece ulos selendang?
Itu tergantung keadaannya, Bu. Tergantung kondisi tenunnya. Karena tenun tidak ada yang sama, Bu. Ada yang lancar, ada yang mandek, ada yang susah sekali. Itu. Jadi kehebatan ulos itu di situ, Bu. Tidak bisa diprediksi seperti apa yang datang kepada kita. Tapi rata-rata ya, Bu ya, kalau untuk selendang seperti ini, kalau lancar-lancar saja itu bisa 3 hari.
Okay, I just want to know how long does it take to make one
So
piece?
she's saying it really depends on the cloth, uh, and also on time market pressure. Because she can weave a cloth in 2 days. But there's also preparation work. You know, you prepare the yarn, you prepare the warp. But she's saying, you know, depending on how complex you're going to make the cloth, it can take longer or shorter.
Oke, terima kasih banyak Ibu Uli. Kami terkesan sekali.
She says, thank you very much to Uli. She's very impressed. She's onder de indruk. Impressed, yeah. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue this program with a fashion show. We still have more questions, sorry.
There's a question
chat
at
box?
the chat stage.
Okay.
It appears on the screen right now.
Oh, see it, Ibu Sandra.
I'll read it for you, Ibu. Shall I read it for you? So, greeting Miss Sandra. I'm Lampier Nababan, 16 years old high school student. I advocate about a lot of things, including in Indonesian culture. As a young generation, we keep a lot of things modern. We don't want to be left behind for modernization. Therefore, we tend to forget our roots and cultural heritage, like ulos, that has been passed from generation to generation. What would you personally say to youth to encourage them on promoting this heritage of ours and maybe wear it without being ashamed of anything? Thank you.
Terima kasih banyak Bapak atas tanya ini dan juga Lampiar ya, Boru Nababan. Ya. It's a very difficult question. We all go with the fashions. We all want to be considered modern and beautiful. And in Indonesia, it's such a creative country with so many beautiful people and amazing designs. So there is a tremendous dynamic in clothing and design in Indonesia. I personally belong to a group, it's called Fashion Act Now. And we look at the importance of valuing your own culture and developing local clothing. We know that today the fashion industry is too large because it's creating so many heaps of wasted clothing. It can't be dealt with. So we know that the fashion industry has to shrink. It's too big. And we encourage generally across the board clothing to be made locally with in harmony with nature, so that we come back in contact with nature, the same as Ibu Uli is hoping to do, to get back in contact with nature through her weaving enterprise. I think probably the most important thing Mbak Lamtiar, is to value your own heritage, to feel proud of your own heritage and never ashamed, because you have a heritage that was sustainable, beautiful, sophisticated, and worthy always of admiration. There is no reason to ever feel ashamed of your tradition. I know that the colonial era was not a good time for indigenous weavers because the colonists treated indigenous clothing as though it was inferior to Western fashion. And the colonists were wrong. There is nothing inferior about anybody's clothing system in the world. And in my activist group, we encourage pride in local clothing systems so that there will be a proliferation of individual, unique creativity rather than the dominance of industry that's been globalized.
A couple more questions. First is from Ibu Yanti Mualim. Is in Indonesian. Tolong beri contoh tanaman apa yang digunakan untuk pewarna. If you can give example, what kind of plants that is being used to coloring or dyeing?
Di daerah Batak ada mangkudu. There's a red root from the mangkudu, Morinda citrifolia tree. The traditional Batak colors are red, white, and blue. White is from natural cotton, and the red is from the Morinda citrifolia. Mangkudu, bakudu kalau Batak, and the blue is from indigo. And the Batak people have various indigo plants in the area of Samosir, Salaon, in the area of Karo, Taem. And Ibu Uli, I don't know if she's still with us, I hope so. She has been discovering when she talks with older people in the Sindun Valley that there are various other plants that yielded indigo color. And she's trying to find these plants, and she would like to develop them further so that she can learn more about the range of knowledge of the plant world that was known in the past. I've never heard of this in the literature, so what she's telling me is new, and it's because she has contact with the elderly people that she's been discovering these dye plants.
Yeah, the next question is quite related from Ibu Endang Ahdiati. Untuk Ibu Uli, the question is for Uli. Warna yang digunakan apakah warna sintetis atau warna alam? Is the color that being used, is it synthetic or is it natural color?
Masih sintesis, Pak, Bu. Halo?
Ya.
Pewarnanya masih sintesis, Pak.
Ya, oke. One more, Ibu Cindy, Ibu Sandra. I'm Agustina from Simalungun. I want to ask how we, the younger generation, can revitalize ulos, especially bulang, while the natural colors and teaching staff are very minimal.
Bulang itu adalah sebuah headcloth, ya, kepala perempuan yang sudah menikah di daerah Simalungun. The bulang textile is made in the Simalungun area, and it's a headcloth for women once they're married. It was an absolutely typical textile of the region. There are probably only a handful, if that, weavers who still make the bulang by hand, and it's an amazingly complex textile. Absolutely blows my mind. I've been working on this textile for years. That is to say, I've been visiting one weaver who still continues to make it when I commissioned them from her. And we would like to make a film about it. But I would say to our Simalungun friend who's asked this question, please wear it. That's the best thing you can do, is wear it, so that wear it with pride. it's a symbol of your culture. There is a woman in Simalungun who continues to wear it. I see her on Facebook. She wears her bulang all the time with a great deal of pride, and it will obviously disappear unless there's a market for it. So the bulang and the suri-suri in Simalungun are so important. Please wear them. And you know, the bulang is now being made by machine. So if you can commission one from a weaver and do that, and then natural dyes are coming back. There are many initiatives in the Batak area to make natural dyes again. So then when you can find natural dyes, commission it with, you know, you find the yarn, give it to the weaver and commission it with the natural dyes. That's what my advice would be. I know it's not easy, but it's the only way to move forward.
Thank you. Bu Cindy, I will hand it over to you. So the last question probably from the audience at Zoom. There's one raised hand, Ibu Monica Bauman. Please, Ibu Cindy.
Hello, Ibu Monica.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you loud.
No, okay.
Do you hear us?
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. First, I'd like to thank you, the ambassador, Ibu Sandra Uli, for this initiative. It's really great. I just started to knit again, and I've knitted a coat for my baby granddaughter, and now I started to knit scarves for my sons. And so using one thread and making something of it. So and this brings us to the texture of society. And so I think it's fascinating to go to the old traditions and to link it to the future we are confronting. And so I love this initiative, connecting East to West. And Ibu Sandra, you told us that maybe on this Women's Day, we could start an initiative. And my question is, did you already have some ideas, or is there, do you already have made a few steps? And one thing could be a website. Does Uli have a website or a group of friends? So I'm very enthusiastic, and I would like to know more about this project and to give it a voice.
Thank you very much for such an encouraging question from our dear audience here by Zoom. You know, this whole initiative came from a discussion I had with the amazing Ibu Ina, who's the head of Yayasan Hibiscus, and who's dedicating her whole life to building a bridge between the Netherlands and Indonesia. And she suggested that when she invited me to speak, she said, well, Sandra, you know, why don't we make it into a fundraiser for Uli? And I said, do you think we can do that? She said, yes, why not? Because people love to help. And so, you know, as far as we've gotten is only the event today. And Ibu Ina is putting on an event in April as well in her city of Best in the Netherlands, where people can come and experience Indonesian culture. Focus this year will be on Sumatra. And so that's why I was invited. But if I haven't thought beyond this, only the event today and the event in April, to try to raise enough money to purchase a piece of land for Ibu Uli, so that she can grow her dye plants and she can develop her skills in the weaving arts in Silindu. But if you would like to contribute, I don't know you. I think you're Dutch. I think you live in the Netherlands, no? Maybe we can somehow lets people who contributed, who are visiting us by Zoom, you can learn my email address and get in touch with me. Should I just say it? My email address is NIESS305 @planet.nl. So NIESS305 @planet.nl. Maybe this can be mentioned in the chat box as well. So anyone who does that answer your question?
Thank you. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ibu. Are there any more questions in Zoom? Okay, more. Can you let us know the question, Pak? Okay, trying to unmute. Okay. Desa Siang Sulung. Selamat sore. Halo.
Ya, selamat sore.
Selamat sore, Pak. Ada pertanyaan?
Selamat sore, Bu.
Bu Sandra.
Ya, selamat sore.
Selamat sore, Pak. Bapak dengar kami? Maybe connection. Bisa boleh pertanyaannya boleh disampaikan, Pak?
Ya, oke. Ya, terima kasih kepada Ibu. Kami dari Desa Sonohudo Sibulbulon bersedia menyiapkan tanah untuk pewarna untuk Ibu Uli. Saya sebagai Kepala Desa Sonohudo Sibulbulon siap memfasilitasi berapa hektar tanahnya yang mau ditanami. Kami dari Desa Sonohudo Sibulbulon siap dan bersedia memberikan lahan dengan berupa berapa kontrak entah swadaya kami untuk membantu Ibu Uli. Begitu pertanyaan kami dari Sonohudo Sibulbulon, Bu. Dan harapan saya Mr. Uli, Mr. Sandra, kami minta tolong dari Desa Sonohudo Sibulbulon atas nama Kepala Desa Sonohudo Sibulbulon ingin mengundang Ibu Mr. Sandra ke Sonohudo Sibulbulon untuk meneliti peradaban dan sejarah budaya Batak dan sejarah-sejarah titik koordinat Nusantara ke aliran Bukit Barisan sampai ke Aceh dan ke Jogja. Begitu usulan kami dari Desa Sonohudo Sibulbulon. Terima kasih kepada Ibu dan Mr. Sandra. Salam dari Sonohudo Sibulbulon. Saya tepatnya di markas besar Raja Sisingamangaraja ke-12 saat ini.
Mantap, terima kasih Pak. Luar biasa Bapak Kepala Desa. Terima kasih kehadiran Bapak dan hati yang emas ini. Hati yang luar biasa. Baik, sudah tidak ada pertanyaan lagi? No more questions? Yeah. Okay. This was the head of the village where Ibu Uli comes from, and he's willing to help her with a piece of land and also to assist her with what she's working on. And also he's inviting Ibu Sandra to come over and to do some more research and check the possibilities, not only in this particular village, but also to come to Jogja and Aceh. So he might assist you there as well. Amazing. Any more questions? One more. This will be the last question. After that, we will continue with the fashion show.
Halo. Halo. Maaf soalnya di sini ganggu internet saya kurang begitu lancar.
Tapi kedengaran dengan siapa nih?
Tapi kedengaran ya.
Kedengaran jelas.
Nama saya Suinala Tersia. Saya dari Tomohon, dari Sulawesi Utara. Dari Manado.
Ada
Halo?
pertanyaan, Bu, buat Ibu Sandra atau Bu Uli?
Saya bukan mau bertanya ya ke Eda Uli, tapi saya cuma mau bilang saya sekarang ini sering ke Sibandang, ke desa Sibandang, dan saya juga sering pergi ke tempat wisata ulos yang ada di sana. Mereka masih menenun dan memakai masih memakai tintanya tuh untuk kain masih pakai yang dari tradisional, masih pakai kayu dan buah-buahan gitu.
Oke, menarik.
Iya, di desa Sibandang di Tapanuli Utara ya. Saya sering ke sana. Terus ya saya mau ngajak, siapa tahu kapan-kapan Eda Uli bisa mau juga berkunjung di Sibandang, saya bisa jadi perantara mungkin. Jadi bisa bertukar ilmu dan saya juga bisa tahu tentang Sibandang tentang ulos dari Eda Uli, dan Eda Uli juga bisa tahu mungkin teknik untuk bikin pewarnaan secara alami, karena di Sibandang masih memakai pewarna secara alami.
Yeah. So this lady is she doesn't really have a question, but she's actually telling us that she's actually from another island, but she knows some weavers in another location, Bandang, yes, where they are also creating these clothes in a traditional way, still with traditional coloring from fruits and plants, yeah. And she's actually suggesting Ibu Uli to come to this place as well and see how they can collaborate. So this is very nice. Yeah, Ibu.
Yeah.
Kan Ibu, kalau Ibu dapat alamat email saya, silakan hubungi saya dan saya bisa memperkenalkan Ibu Uli bersama Ibu, dan supaya kalian bisa berbicara bersama. Mungkin Ibu Uli Sibandang.
Iya, saya itu yang tadi saya mau tanya. Saya juga udah chat di secara personal di Den Haag, dari KBRI Den Haag. Saya sudah tanya juga informasi supaya gimana saya bisa menjangkau Eda Sandra sama Eda Uli. Jadi saya juga sebenarnya bukan orang Batak ya, saya sendiri orang Manado, tapi tertarik dengan ulos.
Bagus, ya mantap. Very nice, Ibu. Yeah. Ya, terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih. Mau lihatnya godang.
Thank you. So this is nice, yeah? There will be a collaboration from another island. Yeah, very nice. Okay, so we will continue with the fashion show now. Let the models inspire you with the lovely colors and details in motifs designs, as we will have an auction right after this. And well, we will count on your kind participation. And during the show, Ibu Sandra will also tell us more about the designs and motifs, yeah? Silahkan, fashion show.
In the time until the other textiles come, I would like to auction the one I'm wearing. And
We're starting the auction already.
Yes,
Oh.
but it's the
And it is quite old. I'd say it's about 50, maybe more years old. And it's very, very well woven. It's a cotton cloth, and it's got a typical twined edging of the Simalungun region. It's called Hati Rongga, and it's a wedding
piece. It's a typical piece actually was worn in the Karo area as well as the Simalungun area in the past. And now it's used particularly on wedding occasions, if you'll excuse me, by women. But this is not a traditional piece because it doesn't have side panels, if you don't mind me taking you apart. This doesn't have the traditional, oh, this doesn't either. Let's see. The traditional textiles always comprise 3 parts, and this one has 3 parts. There's 2 sides in the middle, but this one only has the middle. So I think this is why we know, this is how we know this textile was probably destined to be worn as a skirt, as a wraparound kind of skirt. But I think it looks good on you anyway. And nowadays, because all the rules are broken, I'm telling you about the traditional ways because that's what I've learned in the last 43 years. But nowadays, everybody wears everything. And so it does look very nice on you. And maybe you'd like to participate in the auction. Thank you very much. So last but certainly not, we have here, I see this is a set, isn't it? And the Bataks call a set a setelan, yeah. So she's got what would traditionally have been used as a slendang and what would have traditionally been used as a sarong. And I'd say that looks good on you too. Yeah, lovely. So you see the traditional motif here that we've already seen in our first, in the old version here, the bongkit. And actually, this has become one of the most popular patterns, not just in Uli's area, but also throughout the whole Batak area now, Simalungun, Karo, all of Toba, Samosir. But it originates from the area south of the Batak, from the Ankola area. This is interesting. I don't know what fiber has been used. Fabric, yeah. But it's nicely done. It looks beautiful on you. Yeah. Are there any questions when it comes to the textiles? I'd be happy to. Thank you, Ibu Sandra. So we will start the auction now. I just received the opening prices here. We are starting with the upper piece here from Nova. And the upper piece, the opening price is 40 euros. 40 euros. Who starts? Anybody above 40 euros? We have one for 40 euros. Ibu Lani, okay. Ibu Christy. Yeah? Okay. How much? Okay. How much do you?
45.
45. 45. Anyone higher than 45? The people in the Zoom can also join, yeah? There is a, yeah? 50? 50. Yes, anybody higher than 50? For the upper piece that Nova is wearing. Ibu Ina, maybe you can ask to put the price in the bank account in the chat box for the people in Zoom, yeah? Anyone more than 50? Yeah, Ibu Lani. 55. Okay, 55.
60.
Anyone? 60. Where's 60? Ah, 60. Anyone higher than 60?
Anyone higher than 60? Last chance. Right, that's yours then. So, 60 euros. Ibu Ina, are you keeping track? Okay. The next piece is the upper piece from Ilana. That also starts with 40 euros. Anyone higher than 40? $45. Okay, Bulani, 45. You can touch it if you want to feel the clothes. Anyone higher than 45? $45? Right. Last chance. All done at 45 for Ibulani. 45 euros for the piece that Ilana is wearing. Okay. The next one is a set. The set that Mrs. Iman is wearing. And we are starting the set with 76 euros. 76 euros for the kain and the selendang together. Who starts? 76 euros. Do we have any reactions in the Zoom maybe? Not yet. €76. $80. Oh, great. Okay. €80. Anyone higher than €80? €85. €85. Anyone higher?
You can do so much with these cloths. You can make them into any kind of outfit, a dress, or you can wear it over your shoulders in the in the summertime. You can, I mean, you can be creative.
85. Anyone higher than 85? Last chance. 85. It's yours. Then we have one more. Very nice Nanang front that Pak Suhardi is wearing. The opening price is €80. €80.
This is a very high quality cloth, and I would suggest to whoever is interested in it could use it as a wall hanging. I wouldn't cut it because it's so nicely done, but it's got a great color. It's good as a shawl, good as a wraparound kind of skirt. It's from the Simolungun area.
€80. Anyone? Yes. The lady, €80. Anyone? 85. Okay, great. Anyone higher than 85? Anyone higher than 85? Last chance? No? Okay. This is yours now. Thank you very much to our models, Nova, Ilana, Pak Suhardi, Ibu Iman. Thank you very much for the participation with this auction. Oh, you have more? Oh, yes. Ibu Sandra. Ah, all right.
I have a slendang too. And so what will our starting price be here? Anybody want to offer anything for my slendang? I'm not going to start with the starting price. You can do that. It's cotton.
Ooh.
And it's got the pattern that the Batak called itzormoror. And that means it's the same on both sides of the cloth. And it's a special weaving technique because in the past, the weavings were two-sided. You couldn't tell which was front, which was back. And that's a symptom of the traditional weaving techniques in the traditional loom. And then it's got these, what they're calling bunga on top, which they've done. You can see there's a little bit of a front and a little bit of a back there. But otherwise, the cloth is reversible. And it's got the traditional, I would say this is from site Nihuta, which is close to Uli's village, because you can see from the twining how it was, where it's from. It's very simple. It's got no side panels. It's a modern piece, but still cotton. Good for a little shawl in the summertime. It's nice and warm. Let me show you.
Yes.
I have to start a price?
Yes.
I'm going to start €200. I'll start about, where should I start? 50? Is that too much? Yeah? No? 50?
50 euros.
Not much? Should I start
50
higher?
euros opening price. Ibu Ina.
You don't go down, you go up.
Ibu Ina 65.
Oh my goodness.
Ibu Ina 65. Anyone higher than 65?
Perfect for a funeral. You can feel it, touch it.
Any other occasion than a funeral? Anyone higher than 65?
65 is fabulous, but you can do better than that.
75. Ibu Lani 75.
2019, I got it from a friend.
80
80.
on the chat.
80 on the chat.
Hey.
80 on the chat. Okay.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Namanya?
whoever.
Hapusan Situmorang.
Ah. Mr.
Wow.
Situmorang, Mrs. Situmorang. Yeah. 80 on the chat. Anyone higher than 80? 90 on the
90
chat.
on the chat.
90 on the chat.
Oh, now the chat.
Mr.
is-
Daniel Bronson Orlando Simanjuntak.
Oh.
Di
Okay.
mana?
90 on the chat.
95.
95 on the chat.
Mr. Haposan Situmorang.
95 on the chat.
Fabulous. Yeah, I'm not going to sell my rompi as well. And then my shirt. Earrings. So are we going to let the people on Zoom
95
beat us?
higher. Anyone higher here than 95?
Surely we're going to beat the people.
100. Mr. Daniel
100.
Bronson Orlando Simanjuntak.
Wow, 100. Mr. Daniel.
Wow. Di Indonesia atau di Belanda?
105. Mr.
Oh.
Haposan Situmorang.
Mr.
Wow.
Hapasan. 105. Wow.
105.
Lovely. Thank you,
Anyone
Mr.
higher? $105?
Are we going to let the hammer go down? No?
Okay, 105. That's the last one. Last chance, 105. From
Mr.
Hapasan.
So,
Mr. Haposan Situmorang, you get my, there he is. Yeah. Selamat memakai.
silakan bicara, Bapak.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Sandra.
Mrs. Sandra.
Yeah.
Ya, Pak.
Yeah. So I'm in Oman. My grandfather village actually Desa Sibul Bulon. So I would like to convey the message from the Kepala Desa. So you can do the research on our village anthropology. Yeah, that is very interesting. That's why I want to attract your attention for this auction. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, mantap sekali.
Thank you, Bapak. Mantap.
Thank you.
Before we end the show, I would like to call Ibu Lani and Ibu Christine, Mrs. Christine, to come to the front. Borrow the one. Thank you. One for you. For Ibu Lani.
Up there. Just a moment. Hello, you know me, probably. I'm without, I have no word because today was more than what I expect probably. And then I'm very touched about the story of Ibu, the lady, again, I don't remember the name, in Ibu Uli. I learned also that Mrs. is a Ibu. Thank you. I learned a lot today about the tradition of this beautiful country, and then this is I really appreciate the dedication of Ibu Sandra, and then this flower is for you. Thank you. But on behalf of IWC, and then, of course, I want to thank a lot Mr. Ambassador, and I don't see him here, so I want to give this to our spouse. Thank you very much. For House and House. Thank you very much. I cannot finish this section of thanks without say to Lani that you are fantastic. You are the link between our club and this wonderful club. Thank you very much, Lani. Thank you for a special thank you for Iman that's there to compare here as man can. Thank you.
Hello, hello. I was from the Indonesian Diaspora Network, the Netherlands. We want to express our gratitude also to Mrs. Sandra Niessen. Just a little attention for you.
Thanks should go the other way around. You've made today dreams come true. If not in full in terms of Ibu Uli's land, certainly in part, and I know we will succeed. And thank you for your enthusiasm. It was a pleasure to get to know you and this wonderful, warm surroundings of the Indonesian Embassy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all participants and guests for joining us this afternoon. We hope you enjoyed it. We have come to an end of the program. And let's give one more big applause for all the speakers today. Yeah. The Zoom will now be ended. So we say goodbye to everybody on Zoom. Have a nice International Women's Day. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for participating. Bye.